This is Webcast One Live.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, good afternoon. 4 minutes after the hour on this 8th day of July in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and here we are on another Tuesday. Tom Coates in the house, and on the phone is the man who wants to be the treasurer for the state of Iowa, Mr. Sam Clovis. Sam, how are you?
Doing great, Mac. How about you?
We are exceptional here, and looking forward to having you talk about something. I'll be honest with you, I don't understand what a treasurer does.
Well, I don't think a lot of people do, and perhaps that's the reason that the current incumbent has been elected 8 times, because Iowans are want to change things, and so it's probably one of the reasons because nobody ever talks about it, and I think that's one of the problems, is we don't have an activist, outspoken, driven treasurer, someone who is out educating the people of Iowa on what's going on with their money. It's their money, it's our money, and I think that's something that needs to be done. Just briefly, what a treasurer does is responsible for paying the bills for the state, receiving all of the revenue from the state, all the various streams, managing the IRS 529 plans, which are the college tuition investment plan, and also managing public employee pensions, which is really a big deal in the state of Iowa, because we have such an incredible high unfunded liability right now in the state.
Why is the treasurer an elected position and not a nominated or assigned position by the governor?
It's part of the Constitution. It's the Iowa Constitution. There are several what we call constitutional offices, and of those are the Secretary of State, Attorney General, Secretary of Agriculture, and the Treasurer of State and Auditor of State. So those are all constitutional offices.
Well, I would assume, Sam, that the most important part of that job is to manage the investments of the retirement funds for the state employees. Would that be right?
That's correct. I think that's one of the most important. I think the most important function of the office is to make sure that Iowa's bills get paid, and that we manage the revenue that's coming in, and making sure that we generate as much income off of the revenue that we get as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. And I think that's one of the things that oftentimes is missed. One of the things I'm going to do in this campaign, Mac, is to make part of the campaign the education piece. And I think what's important is to educate people of Iowa on the influences that have effect on the wealth of the state. And one of those things is the actions of the federal government. I mean, those are the things I think that are very important for us to remember, that the federal government has, through their actions or inactions, can have tremendous influence on the overall ability of Iowans and other people to accumulate wealth or to protect their wealth. And all I have to do is say quantitative easing, and suddenly we start to see the onerous aspect of this, because through the printing of money, and most of that money that has gone into the stock market has overinflated the stock market, and has thus made a bubble there, that if we go into a recession, which is likely given the GDP growth or negative growth we had in the last quarter, then we are likely to see a precipitous fall in the stock market. Thus, all of the money we have invested in mutual funds through these pension programs and many of the investments we make for the state will subsequently lose their value. And this, to me, is something I think that needs to be guarded against. And this is why I think the treasurer has to be a little bit more than just a caretaker.
Sam, this is Tom. Good to talk to you again, and we haven't chatted.
Tom, how are you?
Good. We have not chatted since you've shifted gears and gone for this position. Now, the gentleman Michael Fitzgerald, that you're running against, has been in office. Many of the voters now wouldn't even been born when he first took office. Am I right?
That's correct.
I think it's interesting that you're highlighting. Now, your background, Sam, would seem to have you preeminently qualified for this position. You have your doctorate in economics.
Doctorate in public administration, but I'm a practicing public choice economist.
Yes, okay.
Successful businessman, so I have a pretty good idea what's going on.
And I know we've talked when you've been in here before, when you're running for the U.S. Senate position. I know you have a good handle, you've already displayed it, of some of the issues. Most people will not be aware of some of the financial aspects and the threatening atmosphere that we're coming into. Can you tell us what percent of these dollars that we have as fiduciaries are put into mutual funds that are into the stock market right now?
Well, right now it runs a little bit more than I think. If you take a look at the equities, and that's what you're talking about, is
yes.
stocks that we have out there.
Right.
That varies, and from plan to plan. I think that if you take a look at the overall investment in equity or equity-like investments, we're talking over 40%.
Okay.
This is the thing I think that is troubling about this, Tom, is the fact that right now Iowa is on a watch list for IPERS, or as cautionary, I should say, is in caution or fair condition, because we have a 79% funding of our pension liabilities in IPERS, the Iowa Public Employees Retirement System, which is the largest one by far, and that's comes close to about a $6 billion, and that's billion with a B, unfunded liability there. And other two pension programs are the Judiciary Pension Program and the Police Officers Pension Program, and both of those have unfunded liabilities that run up over 30%. So this is a huge issue for the future, and also the investment quality that we have here is how do we hedge and protect that investment. And I think this is really something that we're going to talk a great deal about over this campaign.
Well, you can't expect, especially given the condition, to be able to make up that much unfunded liability just by being clever in the investments. What are we going to do about either decreasing the output or increasing the level of revenue in there to get that back to a balanced situation, Sam? What would you propose?
Well, I think there are several things we can do. And first off, the IPERS debt is so large that we're going to have a hard time getting that paid off. But the other two pension plans can be made whole relatively easily if we were to take a look at the surpluses generated by the legislature. And once the rainy day funds are filled, and once we've looked at the repatriation of that money back to the people who contributed, i.e. the citizens of Iowa, then we ought to make a concerted effort to buy down the liability, the unfunded liabilities, certainly in the judiciary and the police officers' pension funds,
okay,
and then start to work on a process of buying down the unfunded liabilities in the IPERS.
All right, and you said the IPERS was, what did you say, 4 or 6 million? What was the number you threw out there?
6 billion.
6 billion. 6 billion. Yeah, and I did understand it was a billion number, because the IPERS is that big, though. Do you have to address either the amount that's being taken out for IPERS from the current working class, or reduce the outflow, the guarantee that's there for them? How do you address that?
I think that I think the state of Iowa has to keep the promises that have been made. But I do think there comes a point, and I would say at some point in the future here, and I would say perhaps not in this legislative cycle, but the one after, when we have a new governor, we have a new governor, new legislature, that we need to address this in this first session, perhaps and set a lead time for us to start moving to a combined system where we're looking at either a combined, not only have a defined benefit, but also a defined contribution program.
Okay.
So that new employees that come into the system will be on a system where they manage their own money.
Okay, so over a period of time, through attrition and time,
Right.
you would address the imbalance in what's been promised and what's coming in. That makes some sense, and you can't normally do that kind of thing in an election year. This year would not have been the time to do it. You would do it next year after the governor's been reelected. We perhaps even have a Republican-controlled Senate. You got to do it in the off-season election year, don't you?
Yes, you do, and I think this is very important here also. Even though there's probably nobody in the state of Iowa more conservative than I am, I think this is one of those areas where you have to keep the promises you've made and take a much more balanced approach to how do you deal with transitions in these areas, and also is to be able to make sure that what you do is fiduciarily sound. And those are the things I think are, as you go along in transition here, Tom, you not only have to take a look at how you might go to a different system or perhaps a hybrid or a different system, you also have to take care of protecting the investments that have already been made. And so that way we can keep our promises to the people that have worked so hard for the state of Iowa.
Well, that makes sense, Sam, and I would think that you're probably the highest profile individual to challenge Fitzgerald for many, many years. This has not been a much of a contested race that I can recall in recent election cycles. Do you have some money raised? Are you putting together a pretty good statewide campaign to take him on?
Well, we've been at this less than a month.
That's no excuse, Sam. Come on.
And all contributions are greatly accepted. And yes, we are putting together we have what I consider to be a tidy package. We know how to make our dollars go a long ways. If you'll take a look at our Senate race, we were outraised by everybody but one person in the race, and we finished second, which
Right.
is pretty remarkable when you think about it. And
How many dollars did you spend advertising versus Jacobs, who you beat?
I didn't spend any money. I think we bought $7,000 worth of radio. I think that was about it. And we had a $53,000 contribution from a PAC on issues, or not to the campaign, but a separate buy from them, and that helped a lot. But the thing that we're really looking at here is to one, we have a tremendous grassroots network already established. This is one of the reasons I think that the Republican Party and certainly the Republican activists in the state were so excited about the idea of getting me to run.
Right.
And this wasn't anything I sought. This was something that I was asked to do this, and I thought it was in the best interest of the party, and I said yes. And I think it also shows how serious the Republican Party is about running quality candidates in these races. And I think we have a tremendous ballot, top to bottom, right now, and I think we're going to give the Democrats all they can handle in November.
All right, Sam Clovis is our guest on part of the program today in Mac's World. Sam, we're going to ask you to hold on just a minute, and we're going to come back, and I want to talk to you. I want to get a sneak preview. I want to get a little peek inside of what that was like when you found out, first of all, you came in second in the senatorial race.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, what the news report says, you get a phone call from Lieutenant Governor Reynolds and puts a bug in your ear about running for treasurer. And I want to talk about that when we come back from the break. So Sam Clovis is on the phone with us, a good friend of us here at Mac's World Live, and he takes the time to come around and see us, and we really appreciate it. You know, Tom and I get together every Tuesday, and we talk about local politics to help you kind of be informed, not only from a Christ-centered standpoint, but also from a conservative standpoint. You'll notice that we don't spend a lot of time talking about some of the hot-button social issues. Nothing I would like to argue more than the right to life and personhood, and why the deviance of the accuser seems to be just flourishing among the unchurched in what we currently are calling the battle for neutral marriage or same-gender marriage. It's not that we're not passionate about it. We just think there's more important things that you want to talk about. But if you've got something you want to talk about, phone lines are open. It's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World.
We don't credit cards. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
See them here, see them there. You got bad credit, we don't care.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com. Visit emetroford.com.
Minutes after the hour on this 8th day of July in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy. On the phone with us is none other than Sam Clovis. Now, Sam is a dark horse. Sam came out of nowhere running for the Senate, and quite frankly, and I remember the first time you and I met him in this studio, and I don't think we're telling any stories out of place here, but when we walked out, or when he walked out after the interview, you and I both looked at each other and said, that's a sharp guy.
We said his intellect was well above either one of ours. So
and I think the proof of that, I mean, if you ever wanted to watch an American success story in politics, it's Sam Clovis in Iowa running for Senate, who came in absolutely, I mean, everybody else, well, nobody knew Jacob's name, but he spent enough money that people knew his name.
That's right, but Sam didn't have any money, and he'd never been elected to anything, I don't think.
No, I never run for office for anything.
Yeah.
So coming in second to Ernst, I mean, honestly, how surprised were you?
Well, I wasn't really surprised. I felt like we had a tremendous campaign. I felt that the polling was way off, and it was. I mean, even in the end, I think that there was a tsunami for Senator Ernst at the end. It was pretty remarkable, and she's to be commended for that. But I do think, for me, the numbers that we came in with, and I think that the fact that we did as well as we did, I think is remarkable, and it goes right to the heart that a person can run a grassroots campaign in the state of Iowa and be successful with it. I mean, had we, who knows? I mean, there's always a lot of things. If the wouldas, the shouldas, and the couldas, I think we might have turned some different things. But I think in the long run, we really ran a race that was very popular with most Republicans. And I don't think that, not all the Republicans voted for me, but it was a very popular race because people really liked me. They liked the message. They liked my staff. They liked how we ran the campaign. We kept it above board. We kept it honest. We kept it clean. And I think everybody really appreciated that. And at the end of the day, I think it really, we came out of this every bit as victorious in a lot of ways than anybody else that may have run, because we became a very popular part of the Republican Party I think rather quickly, if you think about it. In a year that we built up quite a name recognition in the party.
Well, there's no question, Sam. There was the latest Braley gaffe appears in the Des Moines Register just today.
Right.
My question was why this wasn't put on the front page, because it's a statewide story, but they kind of buried it a little bit in the metro section, which doesn't get outside the boundaries of the Des Moines area.
Yeah.
Did you see it? Did you see what they've got him on videotape now saying at the parade?
No, I haven't had a chance to look at that. I've been busy with other things.
All right. Well, the latest gaffe is that apparently at a 4th of July parade that he appeared in, a woman came up and said, "We are farmers," and he said, "I am too." The thing, again, the whole gaffe about the farmers goes back to what he said to the Texas litigators down there in January that was caught on tape. Now he's caught on tape claiming to be a farmer, and the article said he works not in the farm ground. He has no farm ground. He has no farm income. He has no ties to farming, and yet he's claiming to be a farmer. Now, after the fact, they're rationalizing, saying he's misunderstood her. They thought that she said, I'm for farmers, and he was saying I am too. You were obviously a very close observer to some of the goings on in this race. How do you handicap the Ernst Talboy Braley race at this point?
I think it's going to be really close, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to who can turn out the best turnout as far as voters go. I think that we're going to see a lot of cross balloting, I think, on this race as well. I think we've got a very interesting governor's race, and the fact that we have Dr. Lee Heeb is running as a libertarian. I think she's going to be a force in this race. So I think there's going to be some dynamics there. I think there are a lot of people who are probably going to take a hard look at the Senate race and make a determination on that as well. I think that for those of us that are down ballot, I think that this race is really going to come down to who turns out. If we get the Republicans turn out more than, and Republicans and independents are swayed to us because of their unhappiness with the Democrats, I think we have a tremendous chance. I think Joni's got a great chance against Bruce Braley, but I think there's going to have to be some things that are going to have to break her way. One, she's going to have to raise a lot of money because Braley's got a lot of money, and he'll get a lot more. And the other part, and we know the strength of media because we saw what happened in the primary. It was media at the end that just killed us. I mean, killed me and others. But and she had it, we didn't, and that's to her credit. So I think that's the part of it. The other part of it is I think is message. We have got to have a strong, definitive message, and that has to be articulated and it has to be rammed home. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really the key. And I think Joni has the capability of doing that. And I think that as the summer goes on, you're going to get a more and more crystallized message from her. And I think that, in fact, I'm going to see her tonight. I'll be talking to her this evening, and so it'll be interesting to see how that message evolves.
Well, the presumption is that now that Braley has stumbled a few times, made some gaffes, he is vulnerable. And my understanding is that there are outside interest groups that are now willing to come in, spend their money. Yeah. And this is going to be perhaps one of the more expensive U.S. Senate races in the country. It's viewed as winnable. The point is, if we can at all take back the U.S. Senate, we can hold Obama accountable, where right now Harry Reid and his minions will not do so. Right. And this does have an impact on your downline race. If we get to keep the wind at our backs, an unpopular president continuing to screw up. I mean, the latest scandal is the way he's facilitated the flood of Central Americans across our borders. These kinds of things can't play well for him, at least in the state of Iowa. There might be some Hispanic communities where he's popping up his popularity, but for the most part, it can't hold well. Democrats typically, Sam, as you know, do not turn out in these off-presidential election years. We've got an advantage anyway. We've got a wind at our backs with an unpopular president. Voted just last week the worst president since World War II by one poll, beating out Jimmy Carter and W. Bush. That's quite an accomplishment. So you got to be feeling somewhat good, and I think that's part of the reason they came to you. You're a good campaigner. You won't have a lot of resources, but you can get out and turn out the vote, which is what they want to do in this election cycle. Am I right?
That's correct, and I think everybody on the ticket has a piece of the Republican Party to which they appeal, and I clearly appeal to because I really am. I think that I'm a movement conservative. Make no mistake about it. And we have some great conservatives running, but I think that because of my name recognition now in the party and the way it will be recognized across the state as time goes on, because I believe in being an activist, I believe in being out front and advocating for policies that, even though the treasurer may not have policy authority, the treasurer can lobby the legislature and can lobby the governor for movement on issues. And I think this is one of the things I'm going to be very strong at as a treasurer. And I do think we have Paul Pate running for Secretary of State, a tremendous guy and a campaigner. Mary Mosman, who's already the Auditor of State, who I think is going to do very well in her race. Adam Gregg, who's the young attorney that's going to be running against Tom Miller in the Attorney General's race. And, of course, having Terry Branstad and Kim Reynolds at the top of the ticket. I think and Bill Northey, of course, is running. So we have a very strong ticket. I think this is probably as strong a Republican slate as we have offered in this state for quite some time. And I think it gives everybody in the Republican Party and a lot of independents the idea that, we're serious about this, and I think they'll turn out and vote.
Sam, I know when we spoke, by the way, we're talking with Sam Clovis, who's running for state treasurer here in the state of Iowa. Sam, we greatly appreciate you joining us by phone. We kind of grabbed you at the last moment, and we appreciate you giving us some time here on the radio this afternoon. I think of you as an outsider, and I mean that as a compliment.
Right.
I think of you as that guy who, just the average American citizen who's been successful as an average American citizen, seen a need in our government, and like the Bible says in Isaiah, who will come, who will step up with me? And Sam Clovis said, I will.
Yep.
How long are you an outsider?
Oh, I think I'm an outsider probably until I decide to not run for politics, to run for office again, because I will remain an outsider. I don't see any notion. I am my own man, and I even though I'm on this ticket, a lot of people I think are concerned that there's a machine involved in this, and I don't care about that. I am my own man, and I think anybody that saw me out on the campaign trail knows that. I mean, there's absolutely no question that I speak my mind. I am a man of my own making, and it's exactly what you said. I've been a chronic overachiever my whole life, and I think this is really the essence of what being an American is about, is the opportunities are presented, and then you jump at those opportunities and you work your tail off, and then you achieve those things in life that are meaningful to you. And I've done about everything a man needs to do. You know, I'm a retired Air Force fighter pilot. I've been a very successful businessman. I'm a college professor. You know, I've done just about everything a guy ever needs to do in his life. And this is my way of serving the people. And this is exactly what I've done all of my life. I've served the people. And I think this is a way for me to do that. And I don't think that there's any question that I'll, you know, about what, you know, whether I'll stay true to myself, because I think I will, and I know I will. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that.
Sam, this is almost rhetorical, but I mean, in a race like this, I don't imagine, you know, the listeners are going to see a lot of glossy flyers with your face. They're not going to hear a lot of radio ads. They're not going to see your face on TV. How much money do you plan to be able to raise and spend on this race, and what's your campaign strategy?
Well, the campaign strategy is, first off, is to be definitive in our platform, and we're working on the platform right now. I think you know me well enough, Tom, to know that I deep dive everything. I don't start speaking about things until I absolutely know exactly what it is I'm talking about. So those are all things that we'll be working on. We want to be very definitive. We're going to be deliberate on this, and one of the big things is we're going to get the standard things is the literature and do the things there. But over the summer, we're going to spend time getting our message out through media and through op-eds, through the type of things that we have, and then we're really going to have a hard push once Labor Day comes. We will be in the media markets, and we will be out there doing radio and television. That's our plan.
Will you have a booth at the State Fair, Sam?
Yes, we will. We'll be there at the State Fair. We'll be part of the victory offices across the state as well, so we'll have a presence all over the state. And we made enough inroads in the eastern part of the state, I think, to help with our name recognition over there as well. And I think this is substantive, Tom, because this is a very important issue for us. We think that we have a message that will resonate with not only Republicans but with independents as well, because we're going to be talking about protecting the wealth of Iowa, and that's an important part of this. I'm going to have to jump, guys. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
You bet.
I appreciate you being here. Sam Clovis, we'll have him in studio here one of these days. Protecting the wealth of Iowa is the last thing Sam said. What does that mean? Tom Coates and I'll be back to discuss that and more next on Max World on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
Legends. I brought along a couple of the Home Comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm Administrative Manager.
I am the Senior Technician.
From Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed rider it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast. Minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then True Blue with Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Wednesday and Thursday, Reich Places in place here as my guest on View from the Pew. Or not my guest, my guest host. And then on Friday, Pastor Black, who is the new pastor at Point of Grace Church. You may recall, if you're at all into what goes on inside churches, Point of Grace was a split off from Federated about 12, 15 years ago. Tom Allen and Jeff Mullen left Federated there at 40th, whatever it is, 40th and Hickman. Went west, built Point of Grace, and very successful church. And then over the course of the last couple of years, membership fell off. Some say went from 1,500 down to 500. And the powers to be at Point of Grace decided they wanted a new lead pastor. And their worship pastor, Pastor Black, he and his wife and his daughter, a very talented family of music and passion and compassion for Christ and a way of Christ, was given the opportunity to lead that church. And so he'll be my special guest this Friday on View from the Pew. And I look forward to hearing from him. You may recall a few months ago, there was a young man who died down in the Lake of the Ozarks. And he was being arrested for drunken boating, and his death has been somewhat of a mystery. There's going to be civil lawsuits if there's not legal lawsuits. What does that have to do with this conversation? Well, it was Pastor Black and his wife and their daughter who sang at that funeral and really blew a lot of people away. I mean, you would have thought you were listening to one excellent concert at the Country Music Association or the People's Choice Awards or something like that. And so not only a talented man of God, but an incredible performer as far as gospel music goes. So we're looking forward to have Pastor Black, and maybe he'll bring his wife, maybe his daughter, maybe it'll just be him. But we look forward to having him this Friday on View from the Pew. All right. Breaking news. We've got rockets being dropped into Israel.
Absolutely. Into Tel Aviv. It's the that's breaking news here as I'm looking at it. It's kind of pushed everything else aside. Rockets hit Jerusalem. Israel opens public bomb shelters. Sirens sound. Rockets attack on Tel Aviv. This is a situation, it's never settled over there, Mac, but we seem to be reaching to a point that it might boil on over. And this administration's ineptitude, and even their own sycophantic allies, even in the media, are having to back up and admit that this guy, his feckless policies over there in the Middle East are starting to come home to roost. Our former allies like Israel and Saudi Arabia, whatever you think about the Saudi Arabian royal family, has been an ally. Egypt used to be an ally. Yep. The turnover of Libya, the desertion of Iraq, now the cozying up with Iran, which has Saudi Arabia upset. Israel is on its own. They had 3 teenagers kidnapped and then murdered. And this was not something that the response at that point was this was a celebration issue over in Palestine. The media and the public reacted jubilantly to the kidnapping and murder of 3 innocent Israeli teenage boys. Israel did have a revenge killing on a Palestinian youth of their own, but they followed the rule of law, and they are taking steps to bring the culprits to justice. But they are retaliating not just against those 3 murders, but against rocket attempts, rocket launches and attacks on their own soil. And so this thing, again, it's ramped up again just a little bit ago. Rocket attacks on Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. This will be answered. Is it to the point, is the tinderbox about to go over there? Are we going to see this thing explode? And how will this president, who on some levels appears inept, on others appears that he has an agenda that is anything but in our best
That's
interest?
Right. Yeah.
How will he react?
Well, he won't defend Israel.
No.
There's no record that he'll defend Israel.
No, there's not, and we have a long history of defending Israel. This is why their current leadership actually backed Romney. They felt that Romney would have their back when it came down to it, and they do not believe, I don't think, that Obama will protect Israel's interest over there.
And who else is an ally of Israel? Saudi Arabia, but they're not going to get into war. They're not. They're above that.
Well, and I don't know if they've got the means. I think they've, at least going back to the 70s forward, they've depended on American military might to protect them. There was a trade-off back with Henry Kissinger back in the Nixon administration. I don't know if you remember, your listeners will remember, but in '71 Nixon slammed the gold window, and the tie to a international reserve currency potentially was cut, but it was replaced with Henry Kissinger working with the Saudi family to make us the petrodollar, which in essence ensured an international reserve currency, which whoever has the international reserve currency has the catbird seat on economy. The British Empire enjoyed that position for a long time.
Yeah, many decades.
We supplanted them. We have enjoyed the benefits of being an international reserve currency. It looks like that's another thing that Obama has petered away by upsetting the Saudis. They've cozied up now with the Chinese. Mm-hmm. He's put sanctions on the Russians. They're upset. They're talking to the Chinese and the Saudis about generating a currency that would supplant it. We upset France last week. I don't know if you heard that. Mm-hmm. $9 billion sanctions against their major bank over in France because they were doing business with countries that we didn't like. So we sanctioned them. They said, Obama, don't do this. He said, hey, you're on your own. Now the finance minister of France is talking now about supplanting the U.S. Dollar as the international reserve currency. So he's upset everybody. Our enemies still don't love us, but our friends are figuring that we're no good.
And what happened to the price of gas in the late 60s and early 70s in Europe when the common unit to pay for oil went from the British to us? It went to $15 a gallon in Europe, and that's what they pay today in Europe and France.
Yeah. And the only solace we've got on that aspect, although the price of gasoline has doubled since Obama came into office, many of our ag prices have gone up. We have a significant consumer price inflation going on, even though the government doesn't acknowledge it. We have a situation where, in spite of the federal government, they've taken lands offline. They've denied permits to do offshore drilling. In spite of all their best efforts, we are still moving ahead with energy development in this country. And if we weren't, you would see the price of gasoline maybe $1 or $2 a barrel higher than it is right now. The only thing it's saving us is the private market system in this country that is moving ahead with oil development in spite of this administration. And you see what's happening in the Keystone Pipeline. Our front page article in the paper today about we are having some counties in this state having the rail, having the petroleum coming out of the Bakken and in North Dakota coming across. Oh, this is terrible. Well, the government themselves issued a report that said pipeline's your best option. That oil is going to be pumped, and it's going to be transported. And the best option, and I'm glad to hear Branstad say it today in response to it, why don't you allow for the Keystone Pipeline to be built? We'll have thousands of jobs created, and we're going to have a much safer transportation of this oil going down to the Gulf rather than transporting it by rail and truck over to the West Coast and shipping it to China.
Yeah.
And you know the reason that they're not doing it? Even in spite of many of the Democrat politicians saying we need this, There is a billionaire out in California whose name eludes me right now. I think it's Steer. And he has said he will give $100 million to the Democrats for their trying to hold on to the U.S. Senate if the Keystone Pipeline is not built. And so in spite of the political crosswinds saying that many Democrat politicians will lose their job, Obama is catering to that blackmail.
Another big fan of Obama's is the man that runs Costco, one of the largest retailers in the country. Do you know what happened there today? Do you know how your free press just went out the window at Costco? We'll talk about that when we come back live in Mac's World.
I found the story.
We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
See 'em here, see 'em there. You got bad credit? We don't care.
Metro Ford's on everywhere. Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com for your guaranteed credit approval. Good credit, bad credit, no credit. Everybody drives with guaranteed credit approval at emetroford.com.
Metro Ford's on everywhere.
Visit emetroford.com today.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
10 minutes for the top of the hour, 4 o'clock Central Time. Salem Radio Network News live from Washington will update us on the latest in Israel. I just feel for Israel, I think they're going to feel like they're standing alone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this president is not going to. In fact, if anything, this president is probably. Well, this is a horrible thing to say. But I wouldn't be surprised if the president is behind the rocket attacks.
Well,
encouraging some country locally in Palestine, Hamas, Egypt, whoever, to let's stir this up. Let's get rid of Israel once and for all.
I wouldn't doubt anything on this guy. I do know that after the 3 teenagers were kidnapped and found murdered, Obama made a call over there and told them to relax and not do anything. Yeah, that's... and, of course, the rocket attacks the same way. Yeah, you're getting rocket attacks, but don't do anything. So this thing with Costco is kind of interesting, isn't it, talking about Obama? The story on Costco, you want to give the lead in, Mac, or you want me to?
Well, there's this book, and it's called America, Imagine the World Without Her. And it is very negative on the kind of policies that the Obama administration and the Democrat cronies are trying to implement inside this country.
Well, and let's mention that it's also been made into a movie that was just released around the 4th on 1,000 movie screens around the country. That Dinesh D'Souza, who did 2016, which was a fairly successful movie, has done the new movie. And apparently the Costco people found out somewhere along the line this was a movie. They were enraged because this co-founder, this Senegal, is a big Democrat operative, big contributor, spoke at the, the 2012 Democrat convention.
That's why he gave the money, because then he got to talk at the Democratic convention.
It's pay for play, and he gets to, hobnob with Barry and go in there with the inner circle. And they find out They claim, Mac, on the one story that we're looking at, this wasn't political, it just wasn't selling that well. But as I read into the other story, they had sold about 3,600 copies. It was the number 5 top bookseller overall, and it was, they said it was the number 1 as far as a political book. It was outselling Hillary's and some of the others. So this narrative that comes out of the Costco headquarters, this was just because the book wasn't selling very much, doesn't hold water. It was selling very well, but it does come down to a political decision, and it smacks of censorship. If the shoe were on the other foot, if somebody like the Koch brothers owned a string of a retail establishment like Costco, which is the second leading retailer in the country,
behind Walmart,
and we saw them pulling Hillary's book off the shelf, the newspapers would be screaming censorship, wouldn't they?
Yeah. And Hillary, speaking of Hillary, not to go down a rabbit trail, she left today on a world book tour.
Better go the worldwide, because her book sales in this country plummeted. I mean, they were down under the 40th. But I mean, they dropped to nil, and my understanding was that she became so despondent, she went back home, and Bill was trying to talk her off the ledge. She was despondent and depressed over her book sales plummeting.
Well, I was thinking about this today when I was driving into the studio. If I'm an advisor of Hillary's, do I really have the gonads to say to her, "You're going to lose in 16"? So if you run, you will make, you will ruin the Clinton name if there's a name left. Bill will not be able to save you. You'll be done. You might get the nomination, but we doubt it, and you'll surely lose the primary or the regular election to whoever the Republican nominee is.
Well, she got $15 million advance from Simon & Schuster on this book sale.
But she's broke.
Yeah, she's going to come out all right, but somebody there is going to have their head chopped off, because this thing is not going to clear enough money for them to even think about being able to recoup that kind of money. She's going to some school, I remember where it was, they're going to pay her $250,000 for a speaking fee. The school has asked for the money back. She's saying, well, I'm going to give the money to charity. What's a charity? The Obama charity fund. I mean the Clinton charity fund. I mean, it's she has not a good touch with reality, Max. She tried to claim that she was impoverished leaving the White House. They've made, a couple $100 million in speaking fees and book deals since they've left. They lived the life of Riley, and she claims that she can understand the common man's plight because she was busted coming out of the White House. I kind of hope they do run her, because I think, in fact, what we found out is that she has a health condition, too, which has led to a number of fainting spells, a bad heart valve, which not going to get repaired. They just have to keep watching her, which led to the bad concussion, the head injury.
Yeah.
And the way she's handling some of these interviews now would make you believe she was never the brightest, bulb on the porch, as the media would have you believe. But I think she's lost something with some of the age and the head injury, too.
So who's the leader for the Democrats right now to run for the White House?
Ed Klein wrote a book called Blood Feud, and he's been interviewed a lot, and he's got a lot of inside sources on this. Bill had hit the stump for Obama back in 12 with the understanding that Obama would support Hillary. Well, apparently Obama reneged on it after he got elected, and the talk in the last few days is that one of his mentors, Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, who got elected to the U.S. Senate, a hardcore leftist. I mean, a woman without much redeeming character and a personality of a newt. But apparently, she is looked as the left-wing alternative to Hillary, if you can believe that. Wow. And Obama there's talk that he will support her instead of Hillary, which Bill Clinton's just about to go ballistic on this whole thing. He was supposed to have been able to appoint the next head of the National Democratic Party, and instead, blabbermouth, what's her name? Debbie, Wasserman Schultz,
the head of the Democratic
Party,
Party,
was reappointed by Barack Obama, and he went ballistic because he thought he had a deal cut with Obama, so he could appoint somebody more to his liking. It's an interesting soap opera when you look at what's going on between the two major families in the Democrat Party, the Obamas and the Clintons, who apparently don't like each other, and apparently, according to Klein, there's not much love lost between the couples themselves. Hillary and Bill only see each other occasionally, just from a political expedient standpoint. And he writes that the Obamas oftentimes don't sleep in the same bedroom and don't have much good to say about each other privately.
I'm still waiting to find out what Michelle Obama is going to do. I just don't think she's going to quietly walk into the night.
Well,
I think you're going to see the Obama family come back into Chicago and Illinois and just turn it upside down.
She and Valerie Jarrett have wine at night and talk. And we used to talk about the Hildebeest. You know, they nicknamed Hillary Hillary the Hildebeest.
Well, no matter what happens, we'll keep you informed every Tuesday here on Mac's World with Tom Coates, and we sure appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Right Places will be here tomorrow and Thursday, and I'll be back with Pastor Black from Point of Grace on Friday from View from the Pew. Until we see you again, do me just one favor, would you? Just pray.